as you listen to what I have to say in the next few minutes, I think what will actually come through, and I pray it will, is the greatness of God and his love towards mankind. Because as you listen to my testimony, you'll see exactly that flowing right through it. There are a few verses I want to mention because these are critical to what's actually happened in my life. And some are well-known verses from the Bible. The first one is in Ephesians 1 verse 4. It says, "For God chose us in him before the creation of the world." And that's the first thing I want to emphasize, that truth is actually true. That before God created all that we see in this world, he knew about you and me. And we were in his plan. And that is brilliant. Secondly, the Lord, and this is in Isaiah 44 verse 2, the Lord who made you, who formed you in your mother's womb. And so God didn't only just know about us right before the foundation of this world was made, but he saw us through. And when we were in our own mother's womb, God was there looking on. And that's precious, and you'll see how precious that precious thought is to me as a person in a minute. And then Psalm 27 verse 10 says, "Though my father and mother forsake me," that word forsake means to leave or to abandon. "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me, will welcome and comfort me." And that's found in Psalm 27 verse 10. And the last one I want to mention is this. It's Paul in Romans, in the New Testament. He says this, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, i.e., shall trouble or hardship?" And then in the next verse he says, "No." And you know, as I look back on my life over the last 60 years, I see God's hand on it right from the beginning. My testimony is an evidence of God's love, first, to a person. It's the evidence of his faithfulness to us, how he looks after us. And thirdly, it's evidence that God definitely has a plan for each of our lives. And it's absolutely wonderful. I want to introduce by just saying a few words about my parents, because that actually comes in to seeing how God's hand has been on my life through the past 60 years. I was talking to Alan, one of the members of Liberty Church, the other day, and I said to him, we were talking about the Boer War. Now, the Boer War was in... there were two sections of the Boer War in the late 19th century. The first section was in 1881 to 1882, and the second was in the 1899 to 1902. And both wars were fought by the British against the Afrikaans or the Boers in South Africa. Now, the amazing thing is, my father served in that war. Now, if you start getting your calculators out, I'll say how, if he was alive today, in 2008, he would be 136 years old. He was born in 1872. 1872. And he served in the army, in the British Army, and actually fought in the Boer War in South Africa. And I'm only 60. So, you know, you're beginning to see why I believe God's hand has been very much on my life. From the records that we've managed to obtain so far, it seems that my family is of the Jewish background. There's increasing evidence that has come from that as well. He married his first wife and had 18 children. 18 children. My brother and I were not a part of that 18. So by his first wife, he had 18 children. In 1942, his first wife died and left the 18 children. He remarried in 1945, and he married my mother, his second wife, and they had 2 children, and that was myself and my brother, who is 14 months younger than me. In January, we lived in South London, in Brixton, which is a pretty rough area to live in. We were very poor family, and I don't remember much up to the age of 7 years, and I'll go back to that in a minute. But we were brought up in this poverty in South London, and then in 1954, and these dates I'm mentioning for a purpose because you can see God's hand as you go through. In 1954, my mother died of pneumonia. Now, because she had married a Boer War veteran, the press got hold of it, and the national press, and my brother and myself were left with this man, our father, who at that time was 76 years old. I was 7 and my brother was 6. The press came along, and I brought one of the press cuttings, which I've left 1 or 2 things on this table, and I've actually put them in a cover, so if you want to have a look, they are the only copies we have. So if you would, but there's a copy of what was actually in the press here, and it says in the first paragraph, "This magnificent picture by the People, the Sunday People, photographer Les Appleton, captures all the pathos of a valiant last stand by Boer War veteran George Haylock of Brixton, London." And the story goes on to say, basically, as I've just said, that our mother had just died and he was left feeding and looking after these 2 kids. That was on the front page in the Sunday People on March the 14th, 1954. And as a result of that, there became a lot of interest nationwide. We've met people who are not part of the family who actually remember that article. That's a long time ago. And as a result of that, and as you read on in that story, you'll find that he was also being evicted from a house that he was in, or we had been in, and he had been in for 42 years. And so it was just post-war, South London, much demolition, no houses to rent, and that's the picture that the paper painted. And as a result, somehow, and I don't know how, we got one of these government prefabs that were built on bomb sites everywhere after the Second World War. And the bomb site basically became our playground as kids.